Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today and welcome to my review for Call of Duty World War II. A big thanks to Activision for providing the review code for this title. Now I know I said in my previous Activision video I wouldn't be playing this game or supporting Activision by buying it, but they decided to drop a review code in my inbox upon no request whatsoever, and I played the campaign, a decent amount of multiplayers and zombies, and thought to myself, well, I might as well make a review considering this game is receiving very high scores, and a lot of you want to know my opinion on it. Call of Duty World War II has received a ton of hype behind it because it is returning to its roots. It's returning to what made COD so popular, and that's the World War II era. My personal favorite Call of Duty of all time is Call of Duty World at War, so let's see if World War II can bring it back to that level of greatness in my opinion. It starts off with the story. You play as Private Daniels, who is often referred to throughout the campaign as the farm boy from Texas. You're with a ragtag group of guys, and it tries to deliver that feeling of brotherhood, and I'd say it successfully does so in the very small time constraint it has to do so. These aren't going to be the most memorable characters outside of Pearson, who I thought was a great character and developed a lot during this Call of Duty campaign. Seeing how he deals with the decisions he has to make as the sergeant was actually somewhat compelling and interesting to follow, as he doesn't deal with it the best way. But overall, I found the journey pretty entertaining, although there are a lot of rough patches. It starts off in the prologue where D-Day was actually boring, which is a highlight in any World War II campaign. There's an on-rails section, it's very linear, it feels very constricting compared to how much Call of Duty campaigns have opened up before, and there's this odd lack of music that the entire campaign roars with orchestrated music, and this part in particular just felt flat. There was also on the second mission incredibly heavy frame skips where anytime the action picked up, I was bouncing around the screen and it was hard to follow the action, so there were some technical errors throughout as well. Another issue that the campaign struggles with is the lack of set pieces that make Call of Duty campaigns that Michael Bay level action-to-action moments. Considering we're heading back to World War II, there's a lot less for the developers to work with compared to the futuristic COD titles where they're creating all their own technology and making these unique set pieces. With World War II, you're historically restricted to some extent with all the set pieces you can provide. I'm not making excuses for the title, but merely I did notice that they weren't innovating in a lot of missions. There was one standout mission where you actually have to infiltrate a German base and memorize all the information on your authorization papers. It was a creative stealth mission and felt very well thought out. I was hoping to see more innovation like this throughout the campaign. The only new thing they offer for the COD campaign is called squad abilities. As you kill enemies, you build up this meter and then you can get an extra health pack from a friend, or you can get an ammo refill, you can get a special grenade that calls in an airstrike, and it does keep you focusing on killing and constantly cycling out all these powers, but it's nothing really special or groundbreaking. And yes, I mentioned health pickups. That's one big change to this COD campaign I really liked and hope to see in a multiplayer mode down the line. There isn't any health regen. It's bare bones where you have to get health pickups all around, and it made firefights a lot more tense. By the time the credits rolled throughout my 5.5-hour campaign, I have to say I did enjoy myself for the most part. If you're looking for a more memorable World War II experience, then I highly suggest you pick up Wolfenstein 2, but this will pass and get the job done. I played this through on the PS4 and was very impressed with the graphical fidelity of some of the moments throughout the campaign. A lot of the cutscenes looked damn real. It truly impressed me, and the environments were striking from time to time, managing to somehow mix the impossible of beautiful yet destroyed. I always find color in games fascinating, and COD World War II has this interesting variation of color palette where in the campaign there is this desaturation that brings about a more hopeless vibe to the story that they're trying to tell here as you attempt to liberate France and more. Whereas in the multiplayer, which we will now discuss, is a lot brighter, and it totally removed me from that World War II feel. It was very happy-go-lucky despite being an awful part of history. But this is a minor gripe. What's truly awful about this multiplayer are its servers. Now I know some people are going to say, Matty, it was launch. It took a while for me to get into multiplayer matches. I'm talking I found 3 matches in a total of an hour. Lobbies reset often, randomly kicking me or other players. It was incredibly frustrating, and this is days after launch. If there's one thing I can positively say about previous COD games and Activision, it's that at launch there was this level of polish. I didn't have campaign bugs, I didn't didn't have these awful server issues that persisted days after with error codes that wouldn't let people in. When I got in, it wasn't anything I hadn't seen before, and I think for a lot of people they will gravitate towards that and appreciate it considering how much COD has drastically changed in prior years. I was really happy to learn that SMGs did not play like snipers in this game. Almost every Call of Duty ends up having that one submachine gun that can burst fire an enemy across the map and drop them in 2 to 3 shots. In this game, I know it sounds simplistic, but it's so important they nailed it. SMGs are great at close range, rifles are good at medium to long range, snipers are the one-shot kills, shotguns are deadly up close, and it balances itself out by sticking to those rules, regardless of what weapon you have on you. The map design is an improvement compared to the Infinite Warfare that released last year, where I thought it was like someone spilling a box of Legos out on the floor and saying, all right, hop between all these little pieces here, because it was quite honestly a clusterfuck. Whereas this one, there's actually 3 lanes, and those 3 lanes intersect constantly, so they're well-designed maps for both competitive play and casual play. The most drastic change in Call of Duty World War II is its brand new headquarters. In here is where a lot of the customization and unlocks take off. In this headquarters, you can access orders or contracts on top of many other things. In these orders and contracts, upon completion, you'll unlock maybe some bonus XP for your character or bonus weapon XP. Maybe you'll get some armory credits, which you can then spend on cosmetic unlocks, whether they're calling cards, emblems, special grips for your weapons, and then upon the final upgrade are epic versions of the main weapons in the game. Now don't worry, these are all cosmetic. The only fundamental gameplay change with these epic weapons is actually the weapon XP. And I do have to say I am surprised that is the case, but it did make playing the game compelling. At the moment, you cannot buy them. You can also get all these various items through supply drops upon completing those orders and contracts I mentioned earlier. Now, supply drops you currently can't purchase with microtransactions, but down the line, they are adding Call of Duty points, so you can buy as many to your heart's content, which is a sad truth, because at the moment, it's a multiplayer system that does work pretty well. It compels the player to get in, complete challenges, play different ways, whether it's getting headshots with a sniper, or getting a big kill streak in a game, playing the objective, winning X amount of matches. It works out very well. But just like with a lot of previous AAA games, when microtransactions get thrown into the loops, it's not going to throw off the balance of COD World War II, but what it's going to do is make it pointless to play for anyone who indulges in them, and that's their own silly choice, but that brings about the question of why they're even there. Like I mentioned, it's AAA games in general, not just Activision here, but it's silly that they're going to be added when they have a pretty well functioning system at the moment. At the end of some matches, random supply drops are given out, kind of like Destiny 1, where they reward a random player. I had a very average match of 19 and 14, and I got a supply drop, and they weren't rewarding the players who were stomping players out, and I think they should do that considering it's all cosmetic, so why not, right? The last mode is zombies, and while I like a lot of the changes to zombies, I do have to say it's fun but easy. My point count was always high. I was very comfortable. In my first ever run in this Nazi zombies mode, I hit round 30. I think that's insane, because a lot of zombies is learning the map, learning the routes, learning all the brand new mechanics. I got it in one go, and after that, it was really easy peasy. The tools provided do make it a lot more simple. Obviously, there's the Pack-a-Punch where you can upgrade weapons. Then there's new abilities like when you reload, there's an electric burst around you, and if you combine that with a speed reload, you can really keep the enemies off your back, surviving much longer. Instead of there being Juggernog, there is now an armor system where as you constantly replace your armor, it increases the point count, but even with that, I was still flooded with points. For some, it's about completing the map and getting the Easter egg. I'm just talking basic survival at this point in time, where it was very easy to stay alive long enough to get done what you had to. But overall, this rendition on zombies was enjoyable. I do wish there were more secrets to uncover. I do wish it was a little bit more difficult, and I was hoping the map would be a little bit bigger for those secrets to be tucked away into. And now it's time for my verdict. So at the end of the day, we have a campaign that's okay. It is entertaining, but it's nothing you haven't seen before. The same thing can be said for the multiplayer. And then we have a zombies mode that is fun, but easier. So what I'm gonna say here is, if you're a COD fan, you're probably obviously picking this up, but if you're looking for that ideal World War II experience, I would really give a look at Wolfenstein 2 before you pick up Call of Duty World War II. I wasn't that impressed with the multiplayer changes. It's a lot of what we've already seen before, and with some of the bugs and server issues at launch, I simply can't recommend this at the $60 price point, because although I'm not a fan of the company, previous Activision products have offered that polish at launch at the very minimum. So I'm gonna say to you guys, wait for a sale on this or pass it. If you're not a COD fan, definitely pass it. Give some other games a look. 2017 has been very generous to gamers, and I'd much rather suggest to you guys that you dive into some newer experiences than coming back to something you've seen time and time again. That'll do it for my Call of Duty World War II review. Let me know what you're thinking about this game in the comments down below if you have played it. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content we create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.